Join us as we travel around Kangaroo Island, known for its stunning scenery, abundance of wildlife, and the scars of the wildfires of 2019-2020, which are still visible to this day. So today we're heading to Kangaroo Island, or Bruce's Land, as it's affectionately to the locals. I just made that up. So yeah, heading to Kangaroo Island, booked on the ferry. Pretty expensive ferry compared to ferries in Scotland, I have to say, but you have to pay if you want to go, I suppose. So sitting waiting on the ferry. I can complain about the view though. So, not sure if you can make it out in the camera, but that's the island over there. So it's about a 45-minute ferry crossing, so quite looking forward to it.
So the main reason that I have to drive onto the ferry is because Rory's colourblind, and we had a particular incident on a Calmac ferry where it had a green floor with red and yellow striped lines. Rory can't see the red lines on the green floor, so they were trying to direct him in, and Rory was very confused as to why they were telling him not to go into a lane when it was because it was the red lines, not the yellow lines. So it ended in a bit of a standoff between him and the Calmac ferry staff. And eventually we got there, but that's the reason why I drive onto the ferries.
I actually think that Anna conspired with the Calmac staff against me that day, and they were just pranking me. But yeah, I have a bit of phobia of driving on the ferries now. Get in lane. There is no lane. Get in lane. There is no lane. So yeah. The ferry runs from Cape Jervis on the mainland to Penishaw on Kangaroo Island. Few people had warned us about the cost of the ferry and had said it's probably not worth going, but looking at the colour of the water here, we think we've made the right choice. Oh, look at that, a shot of the vehicle getting off the ferry and driving off. How's that been taken? Well, it's YouTube land. That plus the fact that they only allowed the driver to enter the vehicle, so all passengers had to get off separately. Caused a bit of confusion and chaos around the port with people trying to find their vehicles.
So here we are on Kangaroo Island. I actually ended up wimping out, and Rory had to reverse the van onto the ferry. I mean, hats off to the guys who know where your vehicle's meant to go, the distance. I think we were about half a centimetre from where the ferry went up. And definitely an interesting one. And I did actually end up seeing dolphins very, very briefly. Rory missed them and we didn't get them on camera. But I'm hoping that is a good sign for our dolphins for the rest of the trip. And we'll see how we go.
We were on the island for all of about an hour before Anna had to dip her feet into that water at Emu Bay. We then headed on to our campsite for the next 3 or 4 days, which was at a place called Duck Lagoon. This campsite had just 2 bookable sites, and for 2 of the nights that we were there we had it all to ourselves. It was a stunning location. So stunning, I had to get the drone out to capture just how beautiful it was, but safe to say my drone work needs some improvement. The remains of a still used to process eucalyptus oil can still be found on the banks of the lagoon.
Something always sad about like an abandoned farm like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, was it really just abandoned? Like, everything left just where they were? Or did they stage it somewhat?
And I was asking if the farm was just abandoned there, and the answer was yes. The Weatherspoon family lived there from 1882 to the mid-1940s. They set up the farm and the eucalyptus still. They abandoned the farm shortly after Arthur Weatherspoon died of a heart attack whilst out shearing sheep. On the walk back to the van, we realised we were lucky enough to share the campsite with a couple of wee koalas. The island is known for having a lot of unsealed roads, and we decided to go drive down one of them to a place called the North Cape. We were lucky enough to have the place to ourselves, where we enjoyed this turquoise feast for the eyes. That is assuming it's turquoise. And whilst we were there, just so happened to be a fair-sized pod of dolphins swimming along just at the edge of where the shallow meets the deep. We headed for Stokes Bay, where this sign for the beach didn't really seem to lead anywhere. It was voted Australia's best beach in 2023. I suspect partially because of the charm of walking through this labyrinth of rocks before you can reach the beach. Yeah, can already see why it won that award. The main part of the beach runs for about 1.5 kilometres. The rock pool at the start of the beach looked a bit more preferable to the open sea, so we had to go for a little explore. There was quite a number of fish in the rock pools, but I was not particularly good at getting them on the GoPro, so you'll have to make do with this footage. The campground here had a number of unpowered sites. We were in Site 12, which had a walkway beside it, which we stupidly thought was for humans. I guess we know where the island got its name. I may have freaked Anne out by saying that I saw a brown tail underneath the van and couldn't be sure what it was. Possibly a snake. Turns out it was just a wallaby. That walkway I mentioned turned out to be a wallaby and kangaroo thoroughfare. We headed from Stokes Bay down to Flinders Chase National Park, We'd purchased a Kangaroo Island pass which gave us access to the national park, as well as a couple of other things coming up in this video. We headed for Admiral's Arch, but on the way you could stop to check out some New Zealand fur seals playing in the surf. In amongst the fur seals were Australian sea lions, which are an endangered species. But more on those later. There were yet more seals and sea lions on the walk down to Admiral's Arch, and even in Admiral's Arch itself, a lot of the blobs that you can see down there at the bottom are seals and sea lions. Admiral's Arch itself is a natural rock archway formed by thousands of years of sea erosion. Next up, a place called Remarkable Rocks. I wonder why they named it that. When we arrived, we found this memorial to 2 Irish tourists who died trying to save a German tourist's life. There are signs up everywhere warning of sheer drops into the sea. Safe to say we would be taking them seriously. The rocks are a cluster of granite boulders and were formed over 500 million years by the erosive forces of wind, rain, and the sea spray. Black and orange markings that are found right across the rocks are a mixture of lichens and algae. When the black algae is hit by sea spray, it becomes extremely slippery, so safe to say I was staying well back from the edge. It was beautiful enough from where I was standing anyway. There are loads of waymarked trails in the national park, one of which is the Platypus Waterholes Walk, which we set off upon. There was still lots of evidence of the 2020 wildfires, which impacted almost half the island. Wildfires are a natural part of this landscape and can be really useful for the flora here. The ferocity of the 2020 wildfires, though, had a severe impact on the fauna here, with an estimated 25,000 koalas killed. Which makes it all the more special to come across this sleepy little guy at the side of the path. And when I say side of the path, this is just how close he was. So again, tonight's campsite is a Good Day Parks campsite. Tilly Park there. Wee koala in the trees just up here. And another just in the trees just right beside me. Despite the number of koalas killed in the wildfires, they're still considered abundant today on the island. Next up with the Kangaroo Island Pass was a place called Seal Bay, confusingly named as it was home to Australian sea lions. On our guided walk to the beach, there were these holes in the bushes. These are actually sleeping dens for the sea lions in the colder months. Straight off the bat, it was great to see that the sea lions weren't too bothered by the human presence here. Australian sea lions are considered endangered and have been monitored here for over 25 years. As they are wild animals, they would never normally nickname any of the animals, but they gave this particular chap the nickname Gigi, standing for greedy guts, as even though he's way past weaning stage, he still bothers his mum for some milk. And quite clearly wanders off in the huff when she's having none of it. So why did I say the name Seal Bay was confusing? Well, seals and sea lions are both marine mammals called pinnipeds, but they differ in physical characteristics and adaptations. Sea lions tend to be more social and live in larger colonies than many true seal species. Sea lions are also often referred to as eared seals as they have an external ear flap, unlike seals, which have a small hole where their ear is. Another difference is in their front flippers. Sea lions have large, powerful front flippers that they use for swimming and can rotate them under their bodies to walk on land. True seals have smaller front flippers and move on land by, no joke, this is the term, galumphing. Another difference is their size. Whilst there are exceptions, sea lions tend to be larger than seals. These two bulls weighed in at approximately 300 kilos each. The sea lions on the beach here were generally resting or playing, whilst the others were up to 100 kilometers offshore hunting and feeding. The centre also had a boardwalk so that you could have a bird's eye view over the colony. While walking down, you could look at the skeleton of a juvenile humpback whale that had stranded many years before. Next up was a visit to Kelly Hill Caves, which was also included in the Kangaroo Park Pass. It is a guided tour of around 15 people, and the guide tells you about the various different features of the cave. In 1880, a local sheep herder was walking with his horse Kelly when they fell into a doline, which is a partial collapse of a cave creating a sinkhole. The sheep herder managed to escape, but when he came back to save his horse Kelly, Kelly was gone. The cave is full with stalactites, which hang from the ceiling of the cave, and stalagmites, which look as though they're rising up from the ground. Both of these are formed by water which carries minerals dripping through crevices in the surrounding rock. One of the unique things about this cave is the formation of helictites, which are essentially horizontal stalactites. In the last section of the cave that you enter, the tour ends with an audio-visual display lighting up the stalagmites and stalactites in front of you. pretty cool. I wasn't sure whether I was going to enjoy this audio-visual display, but in the end I think it was a pretty beautiful display. Oh, and we checked out one of the little dolines that you could see peppered around the hill. And then it was time to head across to Penishaw, where we'd be getting the ferry back, as unfortunately our time on the island had come to an end. Whilst waiting to board the ferry, Penishaw's resident pod of bottlenose dolphins came to bid us goodbye. And thankfully on this ferry, no red, yellow or green markings. Serious cool points won by me. The guy that had the vehicle in front had to ask the staff to reverse his vehicle on and commended me in managing to do my own vehicle. What to say about Kangaroo Island? Well, definitely spectacular scenery, amazing animals, and on the ferry back, lots of dolphins, though I didn't manage to film a single one of them. I think it's safe to say I wouldn't get a job as a cameraman on an Attenborough documentary. And that was that. In the next one we head to Adelaide and the Barossa Valley. Cheers for watching.